They want you to keep your head down, take orders, and just do what you're told. You are an entrepreneur, you run a business, you employ hundreds of people. The mindset that unless I see you in the office, I don't even know whether you're working or not. So awareness is like a light bulb, it can go on and off, but you always have to come back to that. I don't ask them, what do you want to be in 10 years from now? No, irrelevant. Where do you see yourself in 7 years? I don't know where I see myself in the next 2 years.
Why people not able to discover themselves?
God has given you this amazing mind, body, soul where you are wired to be evolving and growing. But then you put yourself in a box and you say, okay, I'm going to be a lawyer for the rest of my life. Says who? So when you go and do the work, you will know whether you want teaching more or you want money more. You can't have both.
The root of the problem is the schooling system. They don't teach you anything to do with life in general. What they're being taught is that they need to land in the best university possible, and for that they need the best scores.
And why? Who says?
Good morning, Samia.
Good morning.
It's lovely having you here.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for your time today. So we've been talking offline, of course, and we've talked about our respective stories, the stories of self-discovery. Let's start with yours.
Okay.
How did you discover yourself? I mean, you're doing a lot of work at the moment in terms of career transitions and career development for a lot of people, a lot of organizations, I believe. How did you discover yourself?
I feel self-discovery is an ongoing journey. So you never arrive, you're always becoming. So I have been discovering myself for the last almost 4 decades now. And it's been a beautiful journey. It's been a life of transitions, transitioning from growing up here in Dubai to moving back home to Pakistan, going through some financial struggles and difficulties back then. And then the first discovery was how I took myself from a life of deprivation to abundance. So how I studied, was very focused, got my MBA, got a job in a Fortune 50 company, Procter & Gamble back in the day, and elevated and lifted my family from the deprivation and the financial struggles that we had to a life of abundance, learned, grew a lot, and then moved back to Dubai. My job, thankfully, fortunately, transitioned me back to Dubai, which was another dream of mine because I grew up here. I loved the country. I loved the city. And to be able to, as a 23-year-old, get the opportunity to relocate back to Dubai, working, in a great company was amazing.
A lot of people struggle with the self-discovery part. I mean, how did you manage to discover yourself over the years? I mean, especially connecting dots to your business, which is to do with career development for people. If you can just take me through that.
Of course. So what happens is, I feel life gets in the way when there are a lot of pressures, and we all do, right? Like pandemics and wars and recession and things going on. You don't have a job, or you don't have a great job, or you're struggling with relationships and family. We sometimes get disconnected with who we truly are at our core. So my clients, a lot of them come to me and they no longer can even describe themselves. I ask them, okay, so what are you good at? What are your strengths? They're like, I don't know, and then they know, but it's, it's just that deeper disconnect that you no longer can connect with yourself and see how you're feeling in your body, in your bones. And what is the composition of what you're made of? Your values, your strengths, your passion. So I think I was gifted in a way that I was always very deep, reflective. I always, would take out time for deep introspection, reading, writing. As a kid, I would journal, I would write, I would walk, I would go out in nature. So a lot of grounding practices, no matter how difficult life got, to be in touch with myself, to know, okay, at this point, this is what I'm feeling. And as difficult as it is, of course, you grow and learn over time. And that helps me then to be centered and come back to myself. Okay, so in my life, this is what's going on. This is how I'm feeling about it, and how to build from there, how to grow from there. So it's always an ongoing journey. And even if you sort of lose your path or go astray for a bit, there are times when you feel like, even we say to ourselves, I don't feel like myself. I'm not myself these days. I'm not working the same way I used to. My performance is struggling. Or for kids, my grades are struggling. That happens to the best of us. But then to have that awareness.
Thank you everyone for your great support and comments on each of the episodes. We've been working really, really hard to bring you great guests and content. and it's only going to get better from here onwards. Your support means a lot to us. Do hit that subscribe button. Let's make it happen and make it count.
So awareness is like a light bulb, it can go on and off, but you always have to come back to that and give yourself kindness and the time and space to be.
So you came to Dubai in 2009, I believe.
2009, yes.
And you were working with PNG for about 6-7 years. And
in total,
you
10 years.
10 years in total, but in Dubai about 6-7 years.
8 years,
I believe, right? And you sort of started your own business afterwards. What was the trigger point there?
So I was contemplating to do something on my own. I'm a big fan of Robert Kiyosaki, Rich Dad Poor Dad, financial independence.
Me too.
And I think it was a couple of things. It was the realization of, what served you once in life, to realize that when it's no longer serving you and when you need to change paths, having that realization is critical. So PNG was amazing. It's an institution. It was a school. I learned, I grew, I traveled, amazing exposure, accountability. But by the end of it, I felt like my learning curve had kind of, become stagnant, that I'm not learning as much, or whatever I really enjoyed doing, like FMCG marketing and really delving into brand management and consumer, I have done that. And now in this new phase of my life, what I'm enjoying more is people. So even at PNG, I found myself doing more HR related things like recruiting and training and coaching, leading a big team, mentoring, directing people. And along with that, in terms of my life, what changed is that I had a daughter. So before, in your 20s, when you're single and you can dedicate 12 hours a day and you're married to your workplace, that changes when you, as a mother, and as a very hands-on mother that I am, when you have a child. So I'm very career-minded. I was always going to work, but then the time that I spend away from her has to be meaningful. So when I felt that my job is not giving me the same meaning and purpose that I am looking for at this stage in my life, because I'm evolving and growing, I quit. And I quit with no other plan. I didn't have another job. I didn't even know, what kind of business I will start. All I knew was something to do with people development.
Right.
And then I saw a coach. So I was very fascinated by coaching. I didn't know much about it. I was thinking consulting, therapy, what's the difference? And when I saw and worked with a coach and got firsthand experience, I realized the power of coaching. Which is not telling people what to do. In the corporate world, we are very good at that. We call leading telling people what to do. And I'm a great manager. I tell people what to do and they do it. So coaching is really holding someone's hand and letting them find themselves, letting them discover themselves, find the answers deep within, knowing that this person is resourceful enough to know themselves, and then using your tools and modalities and powerful questions to get them to their goal.
So your self-discovery has been essentially to work with people and to coach people, right?
To coach people, to enable them see who they are, to discover themselves and to achieve what they're capable of.
Right. Let's talk about the masses in general. I think a lot of people fail to discover themselves throughout their lives. I mean, they sleepwalk their way through the life, and they just keep working on something and then, of course, end up landing in the graves. Now, let's try and trace the reason behind why people are not able to discover themselves in the first instance.
I think a lot of it, to give them the benefit of the doubt, a lot of it also has to do with the responsibilities. So we were talking earlier about Maslow hierarchy of needs. If you're at the bottom of the hierarchy or the pyramid and you can't get yourself out of your basic needs of food, shelter and home, you are always scrambling and struggling to provide for your family, and you're barely making ends meet. And I've lived that life. I saw my father struggling to do that. So then you can't think of bigger dreams and I want to travel the world and self-actualization or what's my purpose in life, because you're just scrambling to pay the bills.
Right, that's right. I mean, I was just thinking about the schooling system and the education overall, and I keep talking to my children and people around me about the education system all the time. I really think that the root of the problem is the schooling system. They don't teach you anything about financial education.
I fully agree.
They don't teach you anything to do with life in general, about the actual skills that you actually need to run a successful life.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if you go back to the history of the schooling system 200, 300 years ago, when the industrial education, industrial revolution started in the US, for example, the entire board of education was consisting of people who were running factories at the time, and they designed the education system around creating people who could actually, become great at working in an organization. And that education system, in my view, is still prevailing throughout the world.
Yes,
and
absolutely.
It's fairly standardized. It's heavily focused on creating students in a way that, creating successful students by making them memorize things. They have no idea about what they're actually doing in terms of the learning, about the practical realities of life.
Absolutely.
I mean, you can learn psychology, you can learn maths and whatever but there are no connecting dots there. So financial education and training them to become good employees, for example, I really think that the schooling system is a big reason behind people not being able to do well financially to start with. Because they don't teach you anything about finances, although every single person is running after money. The moment they finish the university, they are after money.
Yeah.
Because you need that.
Absolutely.
Maslow's, the bottom of the hierarchy, of course, your physiological and your safety needs are supposed to match your.
Yeah.
Of course, those needs are the basic needs. So I really think that is the root cause. Did you feel this in your case as well?
Absolutely.
If you agree, first of all.
Yeah, I fully agree. I cannot agree more. And I think the Industrial Revolution, or even like whatever happened in the 40s and 50s, that formula that is still prevalent now in this day and age, even post-pandemic, post the success of remote working in organization, tells us everything we need to know. They don't want to change it. They want you to keep your head down, take orders, and just do what you're told. So you don't ask questions. So I even challenge the premise of an 18-year of schooling and high school and college education, a 4-year of undergrad, and 2-year of masters. Why?
Yeah.
Why? And your Gen Z are challenging that because when information is at your fingertips, when education can be learned and grasped in so many different ways, why do you need to go 4 years to college to study? Why Ivy League? Why spend all this money? Why take loans and student debt and come out of it already in debt before you even began your career?
Yeah.
So all of it, doesn't make sense. In my case, I was also in the matrix because there was no other option. And in my case, for instance, I didn't even have the means to think of anything else, although I really needed to make money. So to help my family and to support, but back in the day in Pakistan, there were not even any odd jobs that I could do to support, right? And then that's what got me, even while I was at P&G, to be thinking towards financial independence. And it is financial independence because of which I was able to transition out of P&G, launch my business, number one, and two, to sustain my business in the last 8 years because not all my eggs are in one basket. They were not in the basket of P&G giving me salary and that's it. And now not all in my coaching basket as well. I have diversified revenue streams and a portfolio career.
I bet you didn't start thinking about the financial education because of the school or the education you got from the school.
No.
It must have been the education you got elsewhere.
DIY, self-taught, self-learned.
Of course. And look at what is happening at the moment. I mean, my kids go to school as well. And of course, I mean, they're doing amazing in terms of the grades and all that. But that is what they're being pushed for. What they're being taught is that they need to land in the best university possible. And for that, they need the best scores.
And why? Who says?
Because they say that.
And who says that even getting into the best university will ensure that you get a good job? And who says that you want a job? So work with the end in mind, Stephen Covey, work with the end in mind. Do you want a job?
Yeah.
Do you want to have a portfolio career? Do you want to launch your own gig? What do you want? And then work your way backwards.
Yeah.
Why do you need to go to Harvard and Stanford? Why?
Absolutely. I mean, relating to my story, I mean, of course, I come from a very, very humble background. I mean, no education in the family. One of my brothers is a professor. Other than that, I mean, not many siblings of mine. We're 10 siblings. I have gone beyond the high school. I mean, I ended up being in the UK, studied law. Good
Bravo
fate.
to you.
Good fate, I would say. But when I came back, I didn't have any life skills. I mean, I started working with a law firm I, moved to Dubai, continued with the law firm. But, the feedback that I used to get was that I was technically very sound as a lawyer, but I did not have any business skills. And hence I moved in-house. After moving in-house, for example, I started learning about life in general at great length, started reading materials and all that. Look at the university education I got 25 years ago, and look at what I got myself educated on 10 years ago. That actually changed my life.
What was the trigger point that got you into self-development?
The trigger point was that I was extremely dissatisfied with what I was doing. I didn't know. I was sleepwalking through life. I felt that, I didn't know what my objective was in my life, what I wanted to do. So I started reading books and, exploring myself. And I reached a point where I found out, despite the opinion or the advice that was given that I was not business oriented, I found out that, I was a business person.
Look at your office, mashallah.
I was meant to be an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
That was the journey of self-discovery for myself.
How difficult was to take that leap of faith and have courage to leave like a stable 9-to-5 job with 4 kids?
Of course, so I didn't have 4 kids at the time. I had 2 only.
But
I think
2 is a lot.
Thank you. It was a lot to do with the financial education. The fact that, I had studied financial education in those years, and I had tried to make sure that I was financially making sure that, I am safe.
Amazing.
I'm not making a blind decision, and whatever business idea that I had was solid in its own essence. I had a clear mission. I had clear values behind the business that I wanted to set up. So all of the things aligned in that way. But I wonder, a lot of people struggle with the very fact that they need to be financially stable first of all before they can even think about the self-discovery part. So how do you help your clients?
So I wish I could help them with financial independence. I don't, although I'm very advanced myself in that stage. So not yet. But yeah, the people who, and sometimes I'm noticing even with younger people, they are getting onto the self-discovery bandwagon way sooner than maybe people from our generation did. But if you don't have the means then to execute what you discover because you are being held hostage by finances, then what do you do with that? So you're just now aware, but you're still living that miserable life being aware. And then of course people, try to find courage and means and to see what they can do. But yeah, when they come to me, they are more often than not, whether it's people early in their careers, under 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, senior leaders, 20, 25 years, they are deeply dissatisfied as you were with your life. Maybe they have been there, done that, and had a great stint of a corporate journey or business journey. But now at this point, they are embarking a new season in their career, and they find themselves a bit lost and stuck because they need new tools, right, to embark on a new season of a career, new skills, deeper self-awareness, because you also evolve and change and grow with life. So what they thought they were, or the chapter that served them, is not serving them anymore. So okay, what I need to rediscover my values, my strengths, my passions, all of those. So we start from zero, from the drawing board. And what happens is change throws people off more than they would like it to be, because our brain is our brain is hardwired to protect us from change. It doesn't like change. It keeps telling you this is comfortable, this is convenient, this is easy, do that. So when they're going through any kind of change, all the fears, all the doubts come in. So I work a lot with limiting beliefs that people are going through. I'm not good enough, I can't do this, I will fail, I launched a business and I failed, there are so many other people out there who's going to look at me, I don't stand out. So working through these limiting beliefs and grounding them in their cells, in who they are, and rewiring these beliefs to empowering beliefs is at the core of what I do.
Very interesting. Let me ask you this question. What questions do you start with?
Oh, okay.
Asking people, someone has come to you and they want to sort of either transition to a new career, for example, or, find their true self. or discover themselves, what are the typical questions that you'd end up asking them, and what kind of answers you get,
Sure.
which develops those conversations?
Right, right. So for me, it's firstly very important. And again, I'm a career or leadership coach, but it's not like life is a part of it, right? So life is intertwined and entangled. So I understand their view and perspective on life and on themselves. So even before we get on to the first session, I would send them a long 10-question questionnaire to fill. And I tell them, take out time, grab a cup of coffee, like it will take 30 minutes, go deeper. So the first question I ask them in that questionnaire is, what makes a satisfying, deeply fulfilling, well-lived life for you? By the end of your life, if you were looking back, what does it look like? And then that makes them think about deeper things, right? So people would come up with things like, I want to change the world, I want to make an impact, and it's high-level stuff. Then I go deeper and more specific in the session. Or what are the most positive things in your life right now? What is missing in your life right now? What are the strengths that you always count on when things are tough? What do you value about yourself? What do you value about the relationships you have? What do you value about your work ethic? All of those questions, super high level, open-ended.
But they're very deep.
Very deep. Yeah, all this work is very deep.
Of course.
Very deep. Yeah, so these are some of the questions. And then that informs their lens through which they see the world. Then we get more specific, deeper. There's a mix of psychometric testing. I'm a strengths-based coach, so I use Gallup Strengths Finder. So if they want to go deeper into strengths, we use that tool. A lot of other tools that I use, positive psychology-based tools, neuro-linguistic programming-based tools, communication tools, to really go deeper. And then you have to listen as a coach. So listening, active listening is a big skill. So I have to, in their conversation, any fear, any doubt, any mental block, anything that's coming up, I have to hear and listen for that and then go deeper. Okay, so you said that you can't do this. Why can't you do this? When was the last time in life that you actually did it? Evidence, making them like as lawyers would do, take it to the court. Where is the evidence? Where's the proof? So a lot of different ways.
What kind of typical answers you get from people?
A lot of pauses.
Yeah.
I don't know. I've never thought about it. So then again, our coaching practice helps us with knowing how to probe and dig deeper. And it's not telling. So it's not like if they're struggling, I'm going to fill in words for them or I'm going to start telling my life story. You stay with the pauses and silences. And then people discover, and then I hear a lot of stories. So there are so many stories of hope and courage and how they've been there for other people. And through sometimes remembering the stories from their life, remembering the people that have made an impact in their life, they come back to themselves and they find themselves, oh yeah, when I was 16, I did that. When I was 18, I this happened. Oh, I've never even looked, the memory is faded. I didn't even think. So it's a deep transformative journey. And it's required for it to be sustainable as well. So it's not like, okay, 1 or 2 sessions and okay, now you discovered yourself. No.
Yeah.
So the way I space it is like 1 session a week, 10 to 12 sessions over a period of 4 to 5 months for them to go through this process, to sleep over it, to digest it.
Yeah, I've got some interesting statistics. I mean, according to the Gallup survey, since you mentioned a little bit of, I think you mentioned Gallup as well.
Yeah.
It may not be the recent survey, but according to one of the surveys, about 85% of the people are either not engaged or actively disengaged at workplaces.
Yeah.
Those are scary numbers.
Yeah. It used to be 60%, and I was recently reading a couple of days ago, in the US, from 60, it has gone to 80 in the US.
Yeah.
Scary numbers, absolutely. And if you dig deeper, that disengagement is coming from the feeling that their employer doesn't care about them, is not invested in their learning and development.
Is that really correct? I mean, it can be both sides. I mean, to my understanding, there are 2 elements. Of course, one is the individual himself or herself, and the other one is the company. The organization not doing the right things or not having the right culture and what have you, career opportunities and all that. According to, I think, the other statistics, company is about 60% responsible, maybe 60 to 70%. But there are, about, a lot of people, 30, 40% people, that it is because of them.
What about them?
They are the root cause. They haven't discovered themselves. They're probably in the wrong place or wrong career, for example. They were meant to do something else, and they're extremely unhappy, and hence they are disengaged.
Yeah, absolutely, that's true. Yeah.
So how do you fix that? I mean, of course, you get these clients and you ask them the questions, you get the answers, And how do you make them aware that, they're part of an organization, and they need to do justice with the organization? Of course, the organization's part is separate, but they're basically just taking salaries, for example.
Yeah, yeah. So in my case, a couple of things. I'll divide the answer into parts, right? So first are those people who have had the realization that they're in the wrong career, and they, of course, people try everything first themselves, right? So I want to DIY everything before I go to a coach. So they tried this, tried that, nothing worked, and then they come to me. So by the time they come to me, they already have a deep realization that they're in the wrong career, because I work with career transition clients the most, 80% of them. So they know that this is, I don't know what the career is that I should be in, but this is not it. So that's what they come with. So they are already aware, and obviously as a result of, like you said, both the factors, the company plus them and their deep dissatisfaction and misalignment, they feel that way. The others are people who are in the right career and they are happy with what they're doing. So it's not a problem of right person, wrong person in the wrong job, but they're still unhappy. And that is mostly, when they come to me, they do put more emphasis, obviously, to the organization. I'm not being treated well, the culture is toxic, there's no learning or development plan. My manager, usually a lot of verbs and adjectives to describe the manager.
Yeah.
They are not, giving me feedback, all of those things. And then when we dig deeper, yes, of course, those things are true and we work on them as well. But the work that we do always has to start with what is in my circle of influence. Fine, those things are there. Some of those things might be addressed and can be changed, but a lot of things in life cannot change and they're constants. So look at the variables. What is in my circle of influence that I can change? And then we go bit by bit. So Atomic Habits, James Clear, huge fan. Small things, small steps, bit by bit, you start making progress. And through that, you can see that even incremental change can lead to more than like exponential satisfaction. So some things that they were not doing, some things the manager wasn't doing, let's talk, let's have conversation, because we tend to get very myopic, right? Sometimes when we are just looking at the situation with our very fixed lens. So my job as a coach would then be to help them open their lens and have it wider. Like, okay, what does this person say? What does that person say? Go ask, get feedback, talk to other people.
So basically, in this context, some people might end up changing their careers. Others might get aligned with the organizations, understanding where they stand and how to improve themselves by changing certain habits.
Absolutely.
Or maybe talking things through with the organization. Let's talk about the change in career. If you've discovered that you are in a wrong career, how would you go about it? Because financial independence is something that you're probably looking at, but financially, you're running a family, for example. You're not in a secure place. In Dubai, for example, there are huge expenses. If someone is looking to change a career, it's going to be an uphill task.
It is. And that's why some people come to me, and especially the ones who don't have that financial safety net that they can quit their job and take a few months off and go into this journey of self-discovery, they don't make that leap of faith. They might actually sometimes even taking the funds to do this work takes time, and it takes them a couple of months to arrange for that and then to do it, and then they have this discovery, they have this clarity, and they pause and they go like, no, I have these responsibilities, I have a plan to get there, not now, 6 months to 1 year. And in that we work on a plan. Okay, what are you going to do? How are you going to generate more income? Have a portfolio career, have a side hustle. What is the plan? Because eventually you don't see yourself here. Others, because not all career changes are big changes, some are minor pivots. So sometimes you're just changing a job role slightly. From a product manager, you want to be more of a UI UX designer in the same industry. Sometimes you're just changing the industry, the job role is same. So it's still a different job, but it's a little bit better alignment versus what you had. So those changes can happen. Finding a job is not easy. On average, it takes people anywhere from 6 to 9 to 12 months to find a job. So we get on that process, helping them have the clarity of what is the right job, the specific job that's the best fit for them, helping them brand themselves for it, helping them network and market themselves accordingly, connect with the right people who can open doors for them. And then, once they work with me for 3, 4, 5 months, start doing interview preparation, a lot of branding, marketing work, then they eventually get there.
How many people you think have this sorted out in their heads that they need to change, but they are unable to do it? Because they're just plainly lazy.
A lot.
They don't have the courage.
A lot, a lot. Yeah, a lot.
Why do you think this is the case?
Couple of reasons. Going back to the schooling system. The school. So if you are in the matrix world that we are in, where either you were told by your family that this is what you need to be doing for your career, or you fell into it because you were sleepwalking through life and you didn't think things through, or after studying 4 5 years whatever you studied, you didn't like it, and you don't even, a lot of people come to me who fit that category as well, studied one thing, don't want to do it without even any experience. I studied this. I during my studies, I figured this is not my cup of tea. I don't want to do it. So they find themselves there because not a lot of thought and clarity and effort is put either by our education system or our family and upbringing at home to be able to decide what kind of career would be the right fit. That's one. And at that stage, that there's only so much you can do because you're what, 17, 18, 19, right? So you evolve and grow as well. So that's step one. Then as you, whatever you embarked and whatever you studied and are working at, there is no touch point or milestone where you're going to pause and stop and sit and be like, okay, so now I'm 27, I've worked in this field, in this career, fine, goods and bads, but it's okay, whatever. Do I like it? Do I want to do it? So that sleepwalking continues because your autopilot continues, because you don't stop and think until either you break down because you're burnt out, you're super stressed at work, you're getting panic attacks, or you're so deeply miserable that you can't get yourself out of bed in the morning. And those people then come to me with that, like,
Yeah.
this is where I'm at, tell me what do I do. So until the problem really gets out of hand and you have no solution but to seek external help, you don't. Culture, a lot of things.
So we find our strength. For example, someone wants to be a teacher in a school, right? I mean, at the same time, they have a dream to become a millionaire. Now they love being a teacher. They love the fact that this is their strength, core strength, and they can be the best teacher in the world, but they can't become a millionaire, for example. How do you reconcile these things within this individual?
Yeah, it's a great question. And it's also about knowing where to draw the line in terms of what you want to achieve and what the society and the pressures coming from the external world are telling you. So, again, going back to very deeply to who you are. So, when you go and do the work, you will know whether you want teaching more or you want money more. You can't have both, right? Because you know what's possible in the real world. So if then you will make goals. Okay, if my money goals are a millionaire, I cannot just be a teacher. I can be a teacher, I can teach part-time, but I have to do something else on the side because I'm not willing to drop that goal and I still want to be a millionaire. Then you'll be creative and resourceful and you are going to open your toolbox and figure out, okay, and as a coach, that's what I tell them to do. Okay, how can you be a millionaire? So say you go from full-time to part-time teaching, allowing you obviously some time to do something else. You're still meeting your passion and your strength and doing what you like. How can you generate this money? What does it look like? Go explore, learn, talk to people, and then you can come up with 10 different options. So again, coming back to what works for you. Now, out of the 10 options, the ones you will choose will again be aligned to your value system, to your strengths and skills. Not everybody is good with, let's say, stock trading or the whole financial world. Some people are very passive. They just want to put money in a mutual fund and forget about it and let the compounding investment work for the next 20 years. Great, but do something. Think out of the box.
So you can't just rely on teaching in a school. You could perhaps write a book, for example.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, that book can give you royalty for the rest of your life.
It's
if
a
you
long
really
shot,
think
but
you're
yeah.
great at teaching,
Yeah.
write a book.
Yeah.
Right? You can do many, many things within the school and rise within the hierarchy, and still, in my view, you could probably achieve your financial goals as well. But it really all depends how you look at it now.
Yeah.
If you just think that you'll end up teaching, just doing that 9 to 5 or whatever hours there are in the school, then it's going to be tough. Then you'll have to reconcile. You'll have to reassess your financial dreams, I guess. I'll ask a very broad question now. Just in terms of the economy, how much damage are these people doing to the economy? They're not either trying to discover themselves. If they've discovered themselves, they're not trying to take action on that. And they are in wrong places, for example, because of the sort of, the issues which are their own issues, not the organization's issues. How much damage do you think they're doing to the organizations and globally?
I think overall, it's not a good place to be in because it's like a ripple effect, right? Like, so let's start with an individual. An individual who is suffering at whatever age because of lack of self-discovery and lack of courage, lack of clarity, they are going to be costing money to the organization they are working for because they are not being the best that they can be. They are costing money and other things to the family because they are not their happy selves. They are costing money by, here we don't have a social system, but in countries where there is, by going to the hospital and having physical support and mental health and all of those things because they are not fit and they're not healthy. So it's like a ripple effect across the board. But my question to you is even broader than that. Why have so much onus on the individual and look at it this way versus having the onus be on the entities and organizations and educational institutes and companies, corporations and government to put less pressure on these people?
That's a beautiful question, and I was actually coming to this side. To start with the organizations, I think it's the organization's duty to ensure, first of all, they have the people in the right places, in the right seats. When they're hiring, they need to ensure that they're actually having their procedures, hiring processes well laid out. So they identify the right people for the right job. They put them in the right seats. That's number one. And they need to ensure that they have the right career development opportunities as well. They have the right culture. They have the right communication internally. They have the right values. And their mission is well understood. So it's an overall development starting from the very point of hiring that they need to make sure of. If they're not doing any of these things, they're not being just. And it's very, very foolish to think that their employees will end up delivering because the organization in this case doesn't know what it is doing.
Yeah. And most organizations fall in that category, most of them.
So it's a fault on both sides. I think both sides need to understand what their roles are. Organizations need to fulfill their roles because they're part of the social fabric, right? They're creating employment opportunities. If they're creating that employment or those employment opportunities, they need to make sure that the employees who end up joining them, they do justice with these employees. By creating the entire environment around them, which actually brings out the best.
Absolutely.
Right? So, and the schooling system we've already spoken about. I think it's a huge thing in historically in the last 200 years, and I think going forward as well. Nothing much is changing other than maybe the creating new professions, for example, new areas to study. AI is coming up. A lot of things are coming up, but the entire ecosystem of the schooling system is geared around creating employees.
Yeah.
Right. They are telling them, you have a standardized syllabus. You need to follow this. No matter what you actually like, they disregard that completely. They make you play around the same syllabus and they make you work to get the marks, to get you into a good university. To do what? They force you to work on, memorization, for example, rote learning. This is a huge misstep. No financial education, for example.
Yeah. I have a question for you.
Yeah.
Now, the education system is still where it is, as you've rightly mentioned. Despite that, we see the gig economy growing massively to the point that by 2030, which is not very far away, we'll have 60% of jobs that belong to gig economy, which means that students, Gen A now, and Gen Z are taking it upon themselves to get what they get from the education system, but still do what they want to do. So if that's the case, where do you see the future of work?
It's a very interesting question. I think I look at it in a way that, I relate it to fable, the hedgehog and the fox fable, which is centuries old fable, and it's been used by many, many modern writers in their books as well. So according to this fable, we have the fox, which is a cunning animal. It has many, many ideas all day long. And we have a hedgehog who walks around the jungle to find the food all the way. And the fox is trying to capture the hedgehog one way or the other. And one fine morning, the hedgehog would appear from that corner behind the tree. And it would look at the hedgehog and, now I'm going to get it. The hedgehog does only one thing. When the fox jumps at the hedgehog brings out its spikes. It has nothing else to do. And the fox withdraws. And the story repeats itself, day after day. Hedgehog doesn't do anything apart from bringing out its spikes. The lesson that I draw from this fable is that fox knows many things, but hedgehog knows one big thing. Right? It's extremely focused. It knows what needs to be done at the right time. So gig economy, absolutely, it's going to be the order of the day. A lot of people are finding independence in that. But in my view, that's reality. I'm not challenging the reality here. But in my view, it's like a fox type of an approach, right? You have a small gig here, you have a small gig there, but there's nothing big that you're working towards. There's one life objective that you have that you might find out by having the hedgehog approach. And this example is also used in Good to Great by Jim Collins. It's one of my favorite books of all time. Now, he connects three dots. One is that, you need to understand. It's a point where you need to come to an understanding about yourself as an individual or as a company. What is your greatest strength as an individual or as a company? What can you be the best at in the world? Dot number 2. Dot number 3 is, what is the source of your economic cycle? Where are you going to get the money from? So if you connect these 3 dots, and if you find something like hedgehog, I think you've got a great future. You can create huge things in your life. Gig economy, it will prevail. I think this is the way forward. But I think what it is creating, it's just an alternate means for people to earn little income here, little income there. They might find independence in the fact that they are free to work from wherever they want to work. But is it really a career? Is it something that you
Why
create?
not? So you could have in gig economy, doesn't mean it's just a portfolio career. You could have one business and you're utilizing, let's say, according to the 3 points, if you're utilizing your strengths in it, is generating job opportunities and income, and that is your gig. It is your gig. That's the point. You're not employed by another organization and at the mercy of whenever they want to fire you.
Absolutely
why
agreed.
not?
Absolutely agreed with that. But my comment on that always is that, through this gig economy, you cannot create financial independence. You'll have small gigs here and there. Until you become really serious about establishing something, you'll not have financial independence. This is my problem with it. Maybe you have a different take.
Debatable. No, so okay, let's talk about the components of gig economy. A lot of gigs can go under gig economy, right? So gig is something that you do by yourself, for yourself. It could be a fully functional running business like yours. Yours is a gig, right? You are an entrepreneur, you run a business, you employ hundreds of people and you generate job opportunities for them. So you're adding to the economy, to yourself. A gig could also be freelancing. So you are utilizing your skill set, your strengths in freelancing, whatever you do, writing, content creation. A gig could be some small side hustle that you do on the side besides your day job. So it is a lot of different things. It could be even utilizing your skills for content creation. It could be being an Airbnb owner. So there are different business models, and having a gig basically is on the path of financial independence because you're no longer tied to one organization where 100% of your income is coming from and you have zero control of when that income stops. So here you can have 1, 2, 3, 4 options in your gig, let's say portfolio career. You could have 2, you could have 1. So it's not about the number, it's not about the small bits and bobs of, okay, how much money is coming from where. It's about power, it's about control. Like I'll give you my example. So in my gig portfolio career, I have one-to-one coaching where I work with individuals, career or leadership coaching. Then I have, so that's B2C. Then I have B2B where I work with government, private, and SMEs, different organizations on different projects. So it gives me a lot of diversity and different revenue stream as well. Third is I do trading. So I have been an active investor and a trader, and I do generate short-term monthly income as well, besides my long-term investments from trading. Now, what this gives me is financial independence because, let's say, my corporate clients, the B2B clients, have dried up. These days, let's say I don't have projects. I can still have these two. And the more diversified they are in terms of seasonality, in terms of target audience, the better, because when one goes down, you can rely on the other one, which is the whole premise. Now, I have three, somebody maybe just has one, and they have running a big company like you, and that's enough. But again, the power of putting all of your energy, your resources, your strengths, your skills, your discovery, all of it in the hands of an organization, good or bad, that can take it and throw it to trash or do whatever they want with it, and you're back to the drawing board saying, I'm jobless, I don't have a job, what do I do? And then going back again, adding to the list of archaic things like the education system and organizations, to the job market, where finding a job is one of the most, it's a job on its own. It's one of the most difficult things to do because the system doesn't work.
That's a very, very fair point. I mean, gig in my context, the way I sort of explained or wanted to comment on was the websites where you sort of register as a freelancer. If you have a proper thought process and proper way of let's say taking something long term, as long as you're clear like a hedgehog in this example, whatever you want to do, then that is it. Be it a gig or setting up a company.
Absolutely.
Or making it big. My sort of comment essentially was that you should be extremely focused, like a hedgehog rather than a fox. Fox can think of one thing in the morning. I mean, in your example, for example, you'd said that financial independence. You can draw financial independence through various means. But if you were thinking, do this in the morning, do that in the afternoon, do whatever, your objective is not clear. What you're trying to come out of, that's that would have been fox-like approach. In this case, you're also thinking like a hedgehog, that you have a very clear set out objective, but you're trying different ways,
of course,
to achieve an end, which is extremely focused.
Yeah. And I think the hedgehog approach is also very beneficial in times of change, which we're always running. It's like, as the cliche goes, change is the only constant that there is. So in times of change, when you know for a fact that the market, the world, the economy, your job, everything will change, what is that constant? You are the constant.
Yes.
So the hedgehog knows its strength and it knows that this is what it has. So if you are not going to be discovering yourself and knowing about all your strengths, which again will evolve and you will change your skills and your strengths with time, not so much the values. But if you're not going to have a compass, a direction of where is it that you're going and who is this person, then how are you going to be weathering those storms? Yeah. And also knowing what trade-offs are necessary in whatever life and career stage you're in. Yeah. Trade-offs always happen. Yeah. If you are working more to generate more money, that is coming at the expense of spending less time with the family. Are you okay with that? Maybe you reframe that, yes, I'm okay with that for the next 2 years because I have this big project or milestone, and after that I will rebalance. But having that awareness, people don't even think about it, right? Yeah, that brings me to the work-life blend as well. I mean, of course, that's a very, very interesting topic in its own right. A lot of people, keep sleepwalking their way through life without spending time, for example, with their family. They are workaholics. They find their true self, and that true self is that just working in an office. How about that? Ignore the family. That also is very, very concerning in my view. Yeah. Or another worse iteration of this is that somebody who is so miserable in their day job that whatever they're doing, they hate it, they don't like it, but because they're not thinking out the box and creating alternatives, they bring this misery home. And they are suffering. They talk about it non-stop 24/7. So they have time, but they are not even able to bring their best self home because they can't spend quality time when they are suffering so deeply inside. So if you're not a happy, satisfied man or woman, how can you be a happy, fulfilling in your other roles as a husband or a father? It's just a shame.
It is. It is. And finding your true self is very, very important in that context.
It's a lifelong journey.
It is a lifelong journey. And how do you handle that amongst Gen Zs, for example? I mean, they're different breed. Millennials have different breeds. And what is your experience in dealing with this generation?
So I work a lot with millennials and Gen Z. Gen Z, I'll start off with, and I have worked a lot with them. It's refreshing, actually, to see how bold and courageous they are. Sometimes to the point of a little bit, as people say, entitled or overconfident. They can be that. But I think, back to the point that I was making, irrespective of the traditional educational system that they have also gone through, they, because of the life experiences, maybe the upbringing of their parents, and especially the digital age and being on ChatGPT 24/7, they have so much information at their disposal. They walk into the business world, the corporate world, with quite a lot of clarity. Even if they don't know all the answers yet, which obviously a 22-year-old is not going to, they are far more equipped to get those answers. So I find Gen Z very open to going out and networking and reaching out, talking to people, attending events, saying that, I have 2, 3, 4 career paths that I'm evaluating. I want to go into the venture capital space and the PE space. And I'm like, wow, at 22, I had no idea what I was doing. I was very focused, but I knew one thing. Now, you could argue it helped because I pursued that one thing and it made something happen. But they are dealing with information overload, and they are making the best use of that, knowing that they're operating in a VUCA world, which is always volatile and changing. And they are very resourceful. So these are the positives that I see. Millennials, especially the older millennials, the 80s ones, born in the 80s, are still kind of in two worlds. There's this world of, and they've grown, right? So like I'm now 40, so I was born in the 80s. So people who are at this age have in their life stages, they have families. They have children. Correct. They have to think now about the higher education and generating funds for that for their children. So some of them who have had good financial habits and have a good safety net and investments are in a good place because they can take that leap of faith and change careers or venture into their own thing. Others who are kind of still stuck because they are tied to a day job and that's their only source of income, and their expenses, of course, are going through the roof, they do struggle.
Yeah, I can completely agree with this. The mindset of the millennials and Gen Z is even different, more different. But the main problem that everyone is going to face, in my view, is the finances. Everyone is being trained at school to get good grades, get into a good university, and get a good job, essentially. And that would essentially also mean that, they're going to be, first thing that is expected from them is to earn straight away. Mm-hmm. They might have taken loans, for example, to study at the university. In a lot of Western countries, that is the order of the day. Here in Dubai, maybe not so, because there's a lot of families who send their children to universities outside. I mean, they're well off. Maybe that expectation might be different in that case. But of course, a lot of people, vast majority of the people, will be looking to earn money to meet their basic safety needs. Mm-hmm. And so, thinking about that, how different is this current age from the age that we came from?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So I think my view will be a bit biased, to be honest, because the Gen Z I work with are a little bit more privileged in the sense that even if they haven't taken student loans and stuff, their parents are doing okay. And I work with Gen Z all around the world. So I have a couple of projects and it's all around the world. These people are traveling. So they don't feel they have a lot of responsibility beyond taking care of their own selves. unlike us, where we had to provide for our family and bring the income back. So for them, it's like it's me, myself, and I at this point. And that's why they go for year-long sabbaticals and travel a lot and
They
do
have the
exchange
luxury.
programs. They have the luxury.
Yeah.
They have the luxury. And that's the data set that I work with. Of course, there are Gen Zs out there who don't fit this bracket, and maybe their family does need monetary help, and what decisions they are making, I don't know. But the ones I work with, no. So you would even meet someone who is not Gen Z, let's say a younger millennial, 27, 28, not settled in their career. They've just been hopping and trying different things. And now that they're 28, 29, they feel like, okay, I want to stick to something. So long story short, what this means is, at least in my time where there was a very cookie cutter formula of you study, you join a company, the best company possible out there, you stay with it and do your best. Now it's more like I'm going to experiment, I'm going to try, and the age by which I need to actually settle down and have a proper job that pays well has become longer. So it's not 23, 24, it's maybe 28, 29 for most people, in my experience.
So what is the future of the workplace in the next 10 years?
Workplaces, I feel, really need to transform themselves, because it's like, your younger workforce is going in this direction, and unfortunately organizations are going in this direction. A prime example is remote work. If you look at all the data, everything, pandemic told us people can work from their homes easily, comfortably, there's internet, and you see most of the organizations, including big tech companies, wanting people back 5 days a week. Now, of course, there are both sides to it. And yes, working completely in isolation doesn't work, depending on the industry, the sector, all of it that you work with. But the mindset that unless I see you in the office, I don't even know whether you're working or not. The trust. That plays a big role. So I see a disconnect between the younger lot and the organizations who are still thinking from that mindset that I cannot extend trust to the person because I don't know what they're doing, and you have to show up and be here and do this and do as I say. That they have to meet some way. So there's going to be a breakdown. There has to be a breakdown for it to all fall apart and then be rebuilt both for organizations, typical traditional big companies, and the education system, both of them, I feel. I'm sure in pockets there are a lot of good companies, startups, SMEs, smaller companies that are doing well. The culture is great. People love being there. But most companies, if you look at the data, it's not the case.
You think it'll be putting Gen Zs and millennials in a more difficult position in the next 10 years? If the organizations are not taking necessary steps, how is it going to work out?
It will be difficult, not only from that perspective, but also how AI is transforming everything. So if we look at it from a skill set perspective, whatever the traditional education system has taught you in your 4 years of undergrad or 2 years of master's or whatever you've done, the pace at which the world is growing and changing, thanks to machine learning, thanks to AI, thanks to generative AI, is super fast.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the difficulty that a Gen Z faces at that level, at a skill set level. That I'm 24, I just graduated, I've studied this, and it's not relevant anymore. Or I need to still continue building my skill set because I need to learn this, that, because the job requires. So they are, and any new generation versus the previous generations is already at a disadvantage from this continuous learning and improvement that they have to do, which our education system is not giving them.
So AI is going to, in my view, rule the world in certain ways. Schooling, at the moment, I'm not sure how far they're taking AI. Of course, they're against it because you can plagiarize, ChatGPT. You can ChatGPT your way towards university. Literally, I mean, it gives you everything that is out there already, and you can literally have answer to anything.
They don't have acceptance. It's like an ostrich approach.
Yeah.
It's so difficult, and the change is so massive that they don't want to accept it, so they're going to hide from it. So I don't see it as long as it doesn't, I'm going to block ChatGPT, I'm going to block this. But people don't. They are digital natives. They're born with phone in their thumbs,
Yeah.
If you look at the data in the GCC, the number of hours that a kid would spend on the phone is between 6 to 8 on the phone.
Massive.
On all the
Huge.
it's huge. So that's their learning source. That's the source where they get ideas and information and courage. and they become vloggers and content creators, and then they go out in the business world, and then this company is like, you can't work from home, please come to the office every day. Like, what are you talking about? What is this?
So is work from home for everyone?
No, is the short answer. And the long one is, again, I will link it back to self discovery. We are all different. Some people are introverts, some are extroverts. If we just stay with this one dimension, extroverts require energy. They feed off the energy of other people. I'm an extrovert. I cannot, and I work from home, right? Like I work for myself. So if I stay, and this I have learned after a couple of years, 2 days is my limit. So I can stay 2 full days at home, and that's it. That's the max I can do. And this doesn't include an outside walk or going to the gym. That doesn't count. People count. And having a conversation with my 10-year-old doesn't count. Adult conversations count. So having the awareness of what works for you, what doesn't work for you, what are your strengths, what are your needs, and having those needs met to be able to work productively and make sure that you are making the most of your time.
I'll give you my example, right? I mean, when I work from home occasionally, I find it hard to actually focus. I mean, I have children around, and my wife actually expects me to engage with her in conversations, right? I mean, there are certain responsibilities that might be put on my shoulders on that day when I'm, supposed to be working from home. And my children, wife, for example, they respect that. They absolutely respect that. But there is a certain sense of expectation that you're around.
Yeah.
You can do a few things here and there. So I think it might work for some people. It might not work for some people. You're absolutely right there.
And again, the reframe there is because people like to be put in boxes. So the box is not work from office or work from home. The
Correct.
box is work from anywhere. What does that mean? That means flexibility and empowerment.
Yeah.
So you are autonomous to decide, I'm going to work from anywhere. Sunday, I work from home, or Monday now. Monday, I work from home. Tuesday, I work from a cafe. Wednesday, I work from a co-working space. Thursday, Friday, I actually go to office because I have meetings. I want to do brainstorming sessions with people. I want to connect with people. Work from anywhere. Why do you have to be stuck in one box?
Absolutely. And ultimately, it boils down to productivity. Some people might feel more productive being in an office environment because they have certain environment, they have camaraderie, and they have, every tool that they need to be able to perform their roles to the best of their abilities. So I think it really depends upon your role, in my view as well. I don't think there's
It's a
right or
one-size-fits-all
wrong
approach.
answer to anything.
Absolutely.
How do you see Gen Z discovering themselves in this AI age then? Are they going to find it easy? I mean, because there's so many options out there now. I mean, the ease of the access to the information is out there. Technology is actually growing exponentially, as they always say. And Gen Z is at a sort of, at a place where they're entering workplaces. How are they going to discover themselves? Because the fast-paced progress is also a challenge for everyone.
I'll just make one point which I've noticed has in my work where Gen Zs are on an early path of journey towards self-discovery simply because having access to all your online information and digital world. So back in the day, if you remember, we could not even Google anything, let alone ChatGPT, right? So you would go to libraries and fish through encyclopedias. So a lot of information that's available to them. Let's take an example of the self-discovery space. So everything that has to do with discovering who you are and mental health. If you only look at your social media apps, how much content you can curate for yourself on Instagram, on LinkedIn even, on Snap, on TikTok, anywhere that has to do with this. Now, again, it's debatable how much of it is correct and true and the depth of it, but they have it. So the things that were not even talked about or were taboo back in the day for us are being normalized thanks to these social media apps. Which means that if you read quotes and you get inspiration and you're talking about your mental health and your physical health and transformation, they are at a much more advanced stage thanks to access to this information and putting themselves out there and having more opportunities than even, forget older millennials, even millennials 10 years only older than them. So let's say a 25-year-old today versus a 35-year-old. Huge difference. Huge difference. So just this access is changing the world. And they see people who are creating things, innovating, launching their own businesses, doing amazing stuff. And it gives them a lot of different dimensions to do the same without having to rely on what the traditional world says, whether at school, your family, or the organization.
Do you think it's changing the value system as well for families or for for this generation?
It could. It
It
could.
could.
It could.
In
Yeah.
what ways?
I mean, it depends. Like, if just by spending so much time and being a digital native and doing things and expressing yourself mostly online, the value system could be a little different from people who've lived a different life, who've lived a more real life, real-time communication, deeper conversations. So if you just look at this point in terms of instant messaging and instant gratification versus delayed gratification. So we are the generation of delayed gratification.
Yeah.
Keep your eye on the prize, keep going, disciplined, consistency, focus. It takes time. For them, they have grown with the mindset of
Quick wins.
quick wins. So if I do something, I don't get results in 4 days, it's not working. So that might, again, I'm nobody to talk about their values, but it might lead to maybe less resilience, less grit, less consistency, less focus. But on the other hand, on the positive side, it might lead to more experimentation, more creativity, more courage, more putting yourself out there, more failing and falling and then getting back up and keep going. But yeah, the way we look at things is very different. Yeah.
So how should a person like me in mid-40s move forward? I mean, dealing with the Gen Z. I mean, where do I stand myself? I mean, where do I see myself in the next 10 years if I happen to be living at the time?
No, inshallah, you will.
Inshallah.
I think you don't need to ask this question to me. I need to be asking this question to you because I think you are a prime example of somebody who has, from everything I've learned about you, who has consistently gone back to himself to upskill, to unlearn, to relearn, to continue this process of learning and growing. And that is what self-discovery is all about. Because life will happen, change will happen, curveballs are gonna come your way, but how you find yourself and continue to keep finding and keep leveling up is where the answer lies. So you know your answers, and whatever next curveball life throws at you in the next 5 years that you don't even know about and I don't even know about, you will also be equipped to know that answer. And another thing is that, at least I've realized in my life, all the evidence that we, and James talks about it in Atomic Habits a lot, all this evidence that you gain by doing, and that's the beauty of experience, right? That you gain from experience through life, all this evidence that you collect, it empowers your confidence and your self-esteem. So what happens is, you know how we used to say, I'm not a morning person. I never wake up in the morning. I've never done it. I used to say that all my life until 4 years ago. Until 4 years ago, when I became a single mom and I was forced to get up in the morning to drop my daughter to school, just out of compulsion, because there was nobody else who's going to do that. I became a morning person. And now my identity has changed because I wake up at 5 in the morning or 6 in the morning, depending on the season. Because I had to do it, and I did it over and over consistently to the point that I gained enough evidence for it to change my identity. So you will continue learning and identifying yourself and doing what needs to be done.
So I worry for the people who are not learning at that pace. If I look at myself, I mean, naturally I'm inclined towards learning on a daily basis because this is how I've grown up. I have had plenty of challenges as a child in terms of learning and the background that I come from. I think a lot of people are in their comfort zones, and at the moment they are not learning at the speed that they should be learning, experimenting, because the coming generation, the new workforce, is going to give a big tough time to the older generation in terms of they already are. So in that context, I think I feel sorry for the people of my age or older, slightly older people who are not learning at the pace which they should be to be able to compete or to be able to work with Gen
Sometimes to
Zs
even
and
be able to
future generations.
survive, because if you don't learn and grow like this, you don't stay at the same level, you regress because
Yeah.
everybody else is learning. So
Yeah.
you're actually regressing and going down. And I work, unfortunately, some of the clients that come to me are at that stage. They're not even able
Yeah.
to keep their one job, which is
Yeah.
the only source of income that they have,
Yeah.
middle age, mid 40s,
Yeah.
because change is happening too fast. They're not able to upscale and grow accordingly, and they still have responsibilities, and they're struggling.
And
They've
they,
never thought about financial independence. They've
yeah.
never thought about trying to do something else. That
Yeah.
formula was working 20 years ago. It's no longer working.
Yeah. And I mean, in organizations and in personal life, I mean, I often say that you, at any given point in your life or as a company, you're either growing or you're dying.
Yeah, because you don't stay at the same level.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So if someone is not learning, not striving towards, finding themselves, not discovering themselves, it's going to be very challenging. Now, what is one piece of advice that you typically give to your clients that is often neglected, or they don't want to listen to that?
Oh, you have to think about it. I mean, besides everything that I've already said, okay, let's think. Listen to your body. So I think this is one point we haven't talked about, and I'm a huge fan of being connected to your body. So when I say people come disconnected, they're not only disconnected with their minds, that they don't know what they're good at and everything, they're also not living in this body that they have. So our body is a gold mine of information, of resources, of past patterns and trauma. Everything that you have been through in life, your body holds. It remembers. And if you are not going to honor it, give it space, give it time, listen to it, then your body is gonna crumble. So I am also a chakra healing practitioner, and chakras are basically our energy centers. So we have 7 different energy centers. And it's fascinating when I learned 2 years ago that when your energy is blocked, unknowingly, unconsciously, subconsciously, over time, the blockages in your energy centers cause for that organ to start crumbling. Let's take an example. Let's say your heart. Heart is one of the energy centers. So your energies of your heart is blocked because let's say you are struggling to give love and receive love. A lot of people, they find it difficult to receive love, and I can't because of childhood patterns and stuff, and I can't give love, I can't express. Or your throat chakra, you're not able to speak your truth. Communication is a problem. You're not able to have a voice. So because of this blockage in your body, your energy is not moving. Your energy is not flowing. And if it's not flowing, it's stuck. And when it's stuck, over time, you develop problems, heart problems, throat problems, jaw problems, infections, inflammation, you name it. It happens over time. So when you drop into your body and you listen to your body, you let the pain surface, you let the healing happen, you let the energy and emotions flow, and you work holistically as mind, body, soul as you're meant to be.
That is such an amazing concept. In terms of the growth, if you, in that context, if you focus on one area of your growth, then it'll automatically start spinning as well in a positive direction.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
So, but you need to take the action there.
Yes. Yeah.
Instead
And
of
awareness
thinking
is
only.
key. Awareness is key. So let's say you do figuring out where the blockages are in your body, whatever different modalities you can do, chakras or Reiki or whatever, and you find out. Now that you have that awareness, you can actually focus and pinpoint your efforts in that direction. Whatever are the blockages, where your body is struggling. And people have changed and transformed their lives completely. Somebody who would struggle to walk is running now, marathons.
That's
Same
amazing.
body, increasing age.
Yeah.
And our bodies are capable of so much, but we also pay very little attention thanks to the upbringing and the education system. How many times in school did you learn or hear anything about what I just said about the body? You
Never.
learn the anatomy, you learn the biology.
So I went to school, just a joke. I went to school where the teacher would stand up in the morning and he'll hold a book in his hand and he would address us in this manner. If you can see this book, yes, we can all see, you just need to memorize all the black words on it. And by the way, this is the truth of the current education system as well, in many ways. This is why people are struggling with self-awareness, in my view,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
self-discovery.
yeah.
So self-awareness is the absolute key, as you've
Yeah, yeah,
rightly
yeah.
said.
I just
Yes,
got a visual when you said the book of
yeah,
in my daughter's school, which it's a great thing that they're doing. So there's a big music hall assembly, and they have a poster outside
yeah,
it, which is all naming all the different emotions. So it's basically giving them literacy and jargon to know what they're feeling. So
yeah,
are you feeling sad, disappointed? So all the whole emotions
yeah,
are there, and they actually encourage them to identify, like sit with yourself, how exactly are you feeling, and defining how you're feeling beyond happy and sad, like the two basic emotions, right? Having that language to be able to say that. So baby steps.
absolutely, absolutely. Just one final question now. What is one thing that you'd like to change about people entering careers in terms of their thought process?
I would say approach your careers with the mindset that it's not a one and done. Even if you are coming from a career which is as let's say significant or it requires longer years of study, like law or medicine, or you're a surgeon, don't think that you're going to be a surgeon all your life. It's not a one and done. So you can evolve, because it's like, God has given you this amazing mind, body, soul, where you are wired to be evolving and growing. But then you put yourself in a box and you say, okay, I'm going to be a lawyer for the rest of my life. Says who? Says who? For the stability of the financial safety net that you don't have anyway, the job that you were going to lose anyway, the change, so we've talked about all of that. So I would say approach your career with the seasonality mindset. I am going, and even in the work I do with coaching, we mostly work with the lens of 2-3 years. I don't ask them, what do you want to be in 10 years from now? No, irrelevant. Where do you see yourself in 7? I don't know where I see myself in the next 2 years, So seasonality. Your career is also seasonal. Where you are in life right now, where you are with your skill set right now, your passions, what you want to do, focus on that, and then be open and agile to change. Because 3 years from now, life will change. You will change thanks to your self-discovery. Economy, markets, world, everything, job market, everything is going to change. And then if you are this open, then you're open to learning and absorbing and growth. And 3 years from now, then let's see what comes up. Always be focused, always have a plan, have a goal, but don't be married to that goal.
Yeah. I wish I had that advice 20 years ago when I started my practice of law. I would have changed much earlier.
Yeah.
Maybe we would have been sitting here much earlier as well. But that's a beautiful piece of advice. I think very, very practical. Thank you so much. Thank you so
Thank
much,
you.
Samia,
Thank you.
for being with me this morning. I've learned a number of things from you.
Likewise, it was a very
it's been
stimulating, riveting conversation.
Absolutely. Very, very energetic and thoughtful conversation.
Thank
You
you
so much.
Thank you.